What's going on, guys? We got a big announcement here on this channel. We're going to be launching the 50/50 show soon.
We are going to be talking about current events, Asian culture, sneakers, basketball, all the things that you guys love from our channel, except just in a different format.
But first, here's a podcast about us. Basically, today, we don't have a topic-based list. Or maybe we do, but the topic is the FUNG Bros perspective.
Oh, and we got a list about it. We have some explaining to do. I think some people are kind of confused about our background, where our perspective comes from, how we're able to make so many different videos. 10 things you need to know about the FUNG Bros that inform our perspective. These things will help you understand where we're coming from. It may not explain everything, but we're gonna try.
Because we've been saying a lot lately, particularly obviously on Asian issues.
A lot. Woo! Okay, David, start with number one. We grew up in a very educated family, but we weren't spoiled, nor would I say that we grew up with a lot of money, and we were definitely raised in a more blue-collar town.
Basically, our family, both our parents had graduate degrees.
Yeah.
Our dad had a PhD, our mom had a JD.
Educated in America.
Doctorate. But we were raised in a town that was more blue-collar in terms of, I guess, like socioeconomic level or educational level. So basically, your family stands out sort of like a sore thumb, even though you think, yeah, it's like your family's just misaligned with the city that you grow up in. Our neighborhood, a lot of people in our neighborhood growing up, probably their parents didn't even go to college.
And I would say even whether they were white, black, or Asian, actually, it just wasn't the most educated area. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just everybody was hardworking.
Basically, we grew up with this nerdy academic Chinese family in sort of like a jock, urbanish part of town.
Now, I wouldn't say that it was hood, but there was definitely some hood elements.
No, there
And
was
that's how I
people
would
who left the
describe it.
hood who moved to Kent.
And they kind of brought the hood with them.
Yeah.
There was some hood stuff that happened.
I'll tell you this, there are very particular apartment complexes that where there's graffiti and everything like that, it feels like the hood.
Usually educated parents like this would not raise their kids in a place that end up having, you know, obviously some drug addiction, drug violence, all this stuff. You know, a lot of like professional sports players come out of here. So I think it's just like you said, our family background just did not align with the environment. And that causes for a lot of perspective. And
It actually makes you kind of funny.
Yeah.
It actually makes you funny because I'll tell you why. Everything your parents teach you at home does not necessarily vibe with what other kids' parents teach you, other kids' values, and even sometimes the teachers at your own school are so like blue collar centric, they can't even help you dream of like whatever you're coached to think of it at home.
Well, you know, when our family's expectations, which, you know, coming from where we come from, I feel like we're a little bit maybe, you know, overestimated, but their expectations were that we kind of go to like really good schools or Ivy League schools, but nobody from our area goes to Ivy League schools. Like, it's just hard. You know, like even the
valedictorians don't go.
even the valedictorians or the high school counselors, they don't even understand how to get there. So they're just like hoping you get to community college or like the state school. Anyways, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, that was kind of the misalignment that we're having in our family.
And I think that when you kind of grow up in very blue collar, and some people are even more like maybe lower middle class and stuff like that, you want to be down with the flow, because the flow is the flow. Like, if you're in a certain type of high school that you don't align with, you don't get to come in and be like, everybody adapts to you. You have to adapt to the current flow.
I'm gonna change the rules and bring my values to this school. You guys do not value academics enough? Well, let me tell you, shut up.
Our sister ended up going to Stanford, and she really didn't fit in with the vibe in Kent, right? So she kind of more did her own thing.
Kept herself.
Obviously, you know, if she had really adapted to the Kent culture, she probably wouldn't have went to Stanford.
Nah.
But for me and you, we more tried to adapt, and we tried to get in with it.
And that was a great segue to point number two, is pretty much, even though we grew up around mostly non-Asians, we didn't play the cut. We were very involved. We were out there. We were trying to get with the flow and be popular kids of the flow. We're involved in varsity sports, a lot of clubs. I think well-known, but maybe not like beloved, but definitely well-known kids.
First of all, there's different schools within a school district with like slightly different dynamics. By the way, there's schools with more Asians, there's schools with less Asians. We went to a school that particularly had very little Asians, and of the Asians that were there, practically no, like, I guess, East Asians.
It was mostly like Chinese and Vietnamese and like Filipinos.
There wasn't that many Chinese people, at least when I was there.
No, there wasn't. My year, a little bit more, just not that many though.
In my graduating class of 450 people, there was 7 Chinese people and maybe 10 East Asians total.
Yeah.
Out of 450.
Not a lot.
That's crazy.
We didn't grow up around our own kind.
And we
whether
all
that
did
was,
Running Start.
Yeah.
We all went to college and high school.
Basically, it's like we didn't grow up around our own kind or people from an even similar socioeconomic level. And we were really trying to be cool at school. So we were trying to kind of, in a way, appeal to all these people who were unlike us. Not that that was the only thing. I mean, I think we thought all that stuff was cool too. You know, dressing cool, playing ball, everything. But definitely there was kind of like, yo, I'm trying to be cool.
Well, we tried hard to fit in.
Yeah, without you.
I think some people would go, well, that was very foolish of you to try to fit in when you were from this type of family to try to fit into that flow. That was very foolish. And maybe to some extent people still think we're foolish. At the end of the day, things don't make or break you that young, but they definitely they have an impact. Like some people go to schools where everybody's family is like their family. Yeah. And then some people go to schools where it's half-half, and some people go to schools like us where almost nobody at the school has a similar background to your family.
Even the other Asians didn't necessarily come from a similar background. I mean, we were managed to make some pretty good Asian friends, but their family backgrounds were even different. To wrap this point up is I think being in that environment was oftentimes more like a battleground than a playground growing up, where we weren't just around our own kind, we weren't super, super comfortable, and we were out there trying to make it happen, trying to adapt to the environment, whether or not we should have, but we tried, and that's what we did.
And like we said, everybody has different reactions to it when they don't align with like an immediate environment.
I do think it made us stronger though, overall, like for sure.
For sure, and it informed our perspective too, because a lot of people, they go through that process once they hit like 18, 20, maybe 23 when they're entering their corporate profession. We're going through that at 12, 13.
Let me tell you this, dude, from what I hear, a lot of the SoCal Asians that grow up in Asian areas out here, they learn that when they go to school in Boston or something. Then they get, hit with the American brick. Like, hey, man, this is what it's really like. Anyways, point number 3, Seattle is one of the most, if not the most, educated cities in America. But it's a small place. Just to give you an example, growing up in Seattle, we had the Sonics, we had the Mariners, we had the Seahawks. But really, the big celeb at that time that everybody knew the name of was Bill Gates.
Yep.
And that's like almost even amongst the non-academically focused people, Bill Gates was still the name because he was the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
And he was
I'll say this, like,
Microsoft.
Obviously because we had this very academic-centric family, we did have access to the Seattle infrastructure. So on weekends, we'd get taken to the Science Center, we get taken to the Asian Art Museum, all these different exhibits, variety of theater shows that were available because you're still close enough to Seattle. You can just drive in for a show. Yeah. You're not necessarily driving in when you're young to go hang out because it's not like we went to church in Seattle or anything like that. But I'm saying that it was really a weird push and pull because your local environment is like everybody's trying to play for the Seahawks or the Sonics growing up. Mm-hmm. And then on the weekends, you're going to go see like a talk by like a professor.
Yeah, or you're going to see the new exhibit at the Science Center that's going to talk about like physics and like the universe and stuff.
Or you're going to go see an opera, or you're going to go see a Chinese opera, or like one of those Chinese like circus acts.
Yo, I got to tell you, I got to add this funny anecdote though. For one of my birthdays in 6th grade, I don't know if you remember this. I had a bunch of the guys over from the school, and we were having a sleepover, mixed. There was Richie there and some other people. And then one of the presents that Dad got me was Stephen Hawking's book for my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
And not that I didn't like Stephen Hawking at the time, but I would say definitely to open that present in front of everybody like it was supposed to be lit. I don't know. I felt like a really weird feeling where I was like really embarrassed that Dad did that. I appreciate it now.
You wanted like a N64. Right?
Yeah, I wanted some shoes or something, but I think Dad thought it was going to be dope to have me open that in front of my friends because that's what he valued. And at that time, of course, being a kid, I'm just trying to be cool, Dad. You're going to be opening this book of Stephen Hawking. That was crazy. But,
well, I don't think any of the other kids probably got that for their birthday.
No. But like I said, I appreciate it now, but that was like a funny little story. All right, guys, basically what we're saying is culture in Seattle is pretty different than culture in other places. Okay, it's definitely more similar to
I
SF.
don't think it starts to change to be like this kind of like, to me, what I call like a middle America culture until about Federal Way. Kent starts to change too, but you know what I mean? Like Seattle has a very strong tractor beam of like, yo, if you're smart with computers, you could be rich.
I mean, Bellevue has the highest density of millionaires in the world, or at least in America. That's crazy. And
A lot of stock option millionaires there.
yeah, and just it's just different, man. It's really different. So that's why we wanted to tell you how educated Seattle was, because that colored our perspective and colored the values and, you know, some of the things that we did. Point number 4, we grew up deeply influenced by the culture of New York, particularly New York hip hop and basketball culture. I don't think we need to talk too much about this because I feel like this one's a little bit more obvious for people, but we love New York and we always love New York rap.
Particularly, you know, Lower East Side, Chinatown.
We love.
And if you guys know about, I think it's funny because basically South Seattle's kind of like, at least with the more closer you get to Seattle, it's very like Nas.
Yeah. The south side.
You know why it's like Nas more than like Chief Keef?
It's definitely more Nas than Chief Keef.
Because you have this street element, right? Which Nas is very street, but Nas is also a poet and he's very much about reading books.
Yeah.
It's very like Nas Mos Def.
Nas Mos Def were really big in Seattle. Retro Open Mic is essentially like a
No, it's a lot of like revolutionary slam poetry.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you guys know about slam poetry, guys, usually if you're a slam poet, your favorite rapper is Nas.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Even the point before where we were saying it's so educated, it still seeps in to the culture in the urban parts of Seattle where people are a little bit more conscious.
You know who's like that? That's from really close to where we're from? Jamal Crawford.
Yeah. And you know who else is from Seattle? Is Angela Rye. Yeah, the political journalist pundit.
And they're all from South Seattle.
Yeah. Around the Seward Park area. So it's like
South Seattle. We're from South Side. I know there's the South End. We're not from the South End. We're from the South Side. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I think basically there's just if New York hip hop fit really well into Seattle at that time growing up. It's not so much like trap rap. It wasn't really Atlanta rap. It really wasn't even LA rap. Of course, it being West Coast, there was a lot of Pac being played. But I would say Pac and Nas and Jay-Z, there was like maybe a little more Pac, but it was close.
People just like lyrical stuff.
They like lyrics.
And they sort of like, you know, if you know Nas, he picks a lot of rainy sounding beats. His beats sound very like gravelly.
I mean, I'm not
very minimalistic DJ, you know, premiere type
guys,
stuff.
I'm not saying Macklemore represents all of Seattle, but the fact that Macklemore came from Seattle does mean something.
Macklemore's still really lyrical.
He's very lyrical and kind of cheesy, but
spoken word.
Yeah, he's very poetic. You know, like I said, you got to give Macklemore that.
I would say the biggest South Seattle icons in terms of like the urban hip hop culture, Brandon Roy, Nate Robinson,
Jamal, IT now.
IT's from Tacoma, but yeah, that still counts.
Zach Levine is from North Seattle, but people don't really rep Zach like that. Anyways.
But he does play in the crossover league.
He does. Hey, he's one of the greatest dunkers ever. I'll give him that. Point number 5 that kind of informs our opinion is that we used to be really angrier, and more bitter about the position of average Asian guys in America. And although there's always still things to talk about and issues there, things are getting better. But I feel like we've toned down some of the anger.
Which some people, I think, might be surprised that we said that, because lately we've just been like making some videos complaining. Not really complaining, identifying the issues, guys.
I feel like we're not angry about it. No. The tone is different.
It's way more looking at it just from a technical.
How long are you going to be angry for? Like, that's my question to a lot of people, is that, of course, it's totally fine.
And basically, we should rewind that to say this. I think if you're not super tall or super good looking or super rich, and you're like an Asian guy in America, the odds are people are going to rank your Dragon Ball Z power levels pretty low. I would just say that the average Asian guy in the West, the average Asian guy probably gets ranked pretty low on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Unfairly, like literally, regardless.
No, it's like a fact now.
Of their like built-in skills and talents and thoughts and abilities, just straight off the rip, they're like socially ranked kind of low.
Yeah. And what I would say is that we knew that early on. We kind of learned that. We felt that. We were on the message boards reading blogs about this long before Reddit really popped off as like the scene to do that in. And then I would say like we've been talking about these issues for a long time. And for me personally, I'm just a little bit less angry, not because I have everything in my life that I want, but just because I'm like, yo, we got to just go out and attack things and do things, because I'm like not as caught up at this point in my life in, oh my gosh, this is what happens? You mean Asian guys get ranked lower than other guys? Like, that's not new to me. That's just a fact. I've accepted it. So what do we do from here is my question.
And by the way, I think just so anybody wants to debate us, I'm talking about Asian guys with like equivalent qualities.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, every race of guy has like a 3.5 GPA and a bachelor's degree.
Or let's say 4 guys, different races, all have the same GPA.
From the same college too.
Yeah. Okay. Same college,
Same
GPA,
department.
same general like level of good lookingness. Okay.
I believe that the Asian guy, out of probably all the groups with equivalent height, looks, and education level, would receive the least attention in a corporate environment and would probably would be the least likely to get fast tracked.
Yeah. And you know what a lot of people are going to say? Hey, what are you talking about? Asians are the most successful in corporate America. They make more than white guys. And I'm like, they probably also work harder too. So they're probably not getting paid equal. They're not.
And they probably went to better schools too.
Yeah. They're not getting their equal amount of promotion and kind of recognition.
No, yeah. Because we have to say, it's not just like, it has to be with the same
you have to match the levels with what they get, because
you have to put a 6'4" guard versus a 6'4" guard with the same wingspan
and the same amount of hours in the gym.
Yeah.
Listen, if one 6'4" guard is putting in twice the amount of hours than the other one, he should be a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah. He should be getting more playing time.
And one's like 5'11". I mean, one's 6'4" and one's 5'11". That's a significant enough thing to change your life. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I do think that if you took guys with like equivalent attributes, but just made them boom, 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 and then the Asian guy would probably get the least respect and have the most barriers to fight through to move up quickly in any sort of like formal Western structure.
Yeah. And we're not talking about the really chiseled, beautiful, sharp nose Asian guys that some of them obviously exist.
And yeah, I do think they get underrated. And I always tell people it's like an exchange machine. Yeah. Different people are getting different exchange rates on their efforts.
Yeah. What's your exchange rate?
What can you do except pump more dollars in?
What's your machine like? Is your machine working properly? Is your change machine giving you the full amount 1 for 1? Or is it kind of janky? It's kind of giving you like,
well, obviously, I can see
1.
why some guys could be discouraged if they put in a dollar bill, right? And some guys get 5 quarters back. And then you feel like you're getting 2 quarters and like 2 dimes back, 70 cents. You're getting 70 cents on a dollar. They're getting $1.25 on a dollar in terms, of exchange rate. Yeah. Guys.
It's discouraging.
It is discouraging. But I don't think the guys should stop trying. I don't think that they should give up.
I think the reason why we wanted to share that point is because I basically wanted to let you guys know that we've been there. We've been on the bitter boards, if you want to call them, the angry Asian man. We've kind of been there. I'm not saying that I still don't feel it. It's just that I'm there in a different space now.
As you should be.
Yeah.
As we all should be. I think that it's really easy to stay in that like brooding period. But at the end of the day, your life actually only changes not when you accumulate more knowledge or a more profound understanding of your problems, but actually as you attack them, as you take action. So that's what we want from all the makeover videos and all those things, as encourage guys to relentlessly take action. Instead of relentlessly accumulating a better understanding of the problems.
David, are you active on the activeness?
Basically, everything in life, guys, is a balance between attack and analyze. I do think Asians in general, not just the average Asian guy in the West, could use a lot more attack.
Yeah. Number 6, as Asian as we are, and we're very proud to be Asian, and we're very much into Asian history, culture, food, the movement all happened, but we're not that much into like Asian pop things. It being Asian pop music, gaming, anime, like we keep up with kind of all of it on like a base level, I feel like, but we're not like deep in it.
Right.
That's fair. I don't think that's a mystery. I don't think people are like shocked to hear
I watched
that.
Attack on Titan.
The one movie. You didn't watch the show.
No, I'm aware of the premise. But yeah.
No, I feel like, it's important to understand what's going on, the general view, but I don't spend time.
I know enough to get very surface level anime memes, but if we were going to like into the anime meme Instagrams,
yeah,
a lot of that stuff would go over my head.
No. The memes about anime that pop up on the mainstream Asian Instagram meme pages, I kind of understand, but the deeper ones I don't. And I think it's funny because we had this one friend this one time. She was a girl, and she was like, "Hey guys, you guys aren't really Asian." And I was just like, "What do you mean we're not Asian? Look at us. Like we talk about Asian food all the time. We're very proud." Like, what do you mean? She's like, "No, you guys aren't into like gaming and all that stuff. The typical Asian stuff." So I think it's interesting, and I'm not to like downplay that kind of stuff because I know that a lot of our friends are into it too. But like, I think it's just interesting that we're more into like probably the food, culture, history aspect of it all, and the globalization and the economics behind it than we are necessarily into the pop culture.
You're talking about, sort of like the teenage pop culture of Asia. And
I still like boba though.
I just think that if you really look at Asian culture in depth, there's so many different levels, and the pop culture that emerged in the past 20 years is just one narrow slice of Asian culture.
Yeah.
And I like BTS. I'm glad BTS, I really liked the fact they were able to speak at the UN, garner that type of platform. But I'm not learning K-pop choreo routines.
What?
Just in the same way I never learned Jay Chou choreo routines. So it's not like a Chinese versus Korean thing. Like, I don't like pop music in general.
But yeah, I mean, I think real quick, just to wrap up this point, because I don't think we need to explain too much, but like, why is that different? How does that shape our perspective that we're kind of more interested into the larger part, the 1,000-year-old Asian culture, rather than diving so deeply and being caught up in like the last 20 years?
Well, first of all, I think the people who actually really understand Asian culture, if you had to pick one or the other, for sure, all the other stuff is more deeper.
Yeah. No, the history. I mean, we're talking about hundreds to thousands of years.
I mean, we're talking about products that were created in the last 15, 20 years in the pop world.
We're talking about philosophies that have lasted the test of time.
Let's just say 2,000 years versus 20 years.
I mean, I guess last word on Asian pop culture that I'm not particularly deep in, whether it be anime, gaming, or pop music. It's like, I think it all is part of the wave. I think generally it's all good. Number 7, I wanted to share this point is that we never hid our identity of being Chinese, and we do believe that Chinese are often misrepresented in a kind of larger sense. So I feel like one of our goals of our channel is not that we don't have friends of other Asian races. We actually are very well versed, I would say, in other Asian cultures, but particularly there's kind of this mission that we have to kind of, help explain where Chinese are at right now.
Yeah, I think it's a unique responsibility that only would fall on people who are Chinese.
Have the passion for it.
And I think that of all the Asians in America, Chinese are probably the most misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because it's the oldest Asian, it's the oldest country actually in the world right now that's still a unbroken civilization.
Mm-hmm. And the first Asians that came over to America.
Like Egyptians would be up there, but guess what? Egyptians, they ain't Egyptians anymore. They ain't the Pharaoh Egyptians, right? So basically Chinese are sort of like this very esoteric group of people that a lot of people really struggle to understand. I think even Chinese Americans don't understand.
It is complicated.
It's really complicated. There's 56 different languages within it. And actually, genetically, Chinese people are mixed with a lot of different things.
Yeah, they're not all like what people would say.
They're mostly
full
Han. They're mostly Han, but they're mixed with a
Yeah.
lot of different stuff depending on what region.
China's a big place with a lot of people.
And it's grown over the years.
Yeah.
So it's not as cut and dry as being like an Asian from a small country. I think they're complicated in their own way, but it's pretty much like that's the narrative and that's it.
You know what it is?
For Chinese, it's like they can't even agree on what language to speak.
I mean, it's a lot easier to kind of have a one set narrative for example, like maybe Koreans and Vietnamese people who, their populations range, less than 50 million worldwide. But then obviously with Chinese, with such a big, huge planet of their own.
1.35 billion?
I mean, 1.4 if you count the diaspora, people from around the world easily, right? And it's just like, that's just a crazy amount of people with a crazy amount of history and
diversity. I mean, it's like India. Yeah, if you look at India, the reason India has had some, problems running infrastructure is because they're all super different from each other. Yeah. And some of them don't even speak the same language.
Yeah. And I would say, like, I think it struck us because I think so many Chinese kids, Chinese people over the years.
When we were growing up, a lot of Chinese kids
wanted to be Japanese,
wanted to be Korean, or wanted to be white.
Yeah.
Or
wanted to be
in the
black.
South end. In the South end, it's more urban. Wanted to be Filipino.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted to be everything but Chinese. Let's say that.
Yeah. And you guys have to understand, this is at a time, I think it's like different. If you're growing up in Australia right now and you're 15, you're probably really happy you're Chinese. I'm just saying, like, there was a time in the US, I would say a stretch of about 25, 30 years, where it was viewed as so uncool to be Chinese.
Yeah. No, you know how many Chinese people would just tell us, like, oh yeah, I'm just Asian. I'm like, which Asian? Or like, even if they are Chinese, they're like, oh yeah, they don't want to say which Chinese they are.
What province?
My family's from the South. Where in the South? Like, it's like, I think just that those people themselves, they didn't fully understand how to use it or how to be proud. And I think one of our missions is to this large group of people who maybe don't understand themselves that much. And I'm not saying I'm an expert. By all means, we're not experts. And I'm definitely not an expert. But I do think that we're trying to figure out a way that Chinese people can be proud without being ridiculous about it, with being fair to everybody else, with just representing ourselves just more fully. I just think that one of the goals of our channel has always been to be well-balanced Asian guys, show all different Asian cultures, not represent them in ourselves personally, but put them on camera, give them a shot, give them some shine, but to also build up some more kind of like soft power imagery for the Chinese culture.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about anything geopolitical or anything related to any sort of
just simply people just don't
organization.
Like Chinese people. That's why.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that.
And it's like, what? I'm not gonna like our cousins are growing up over there.
Yeah.
Like, we have cousins growing up in China, Hong Kong, China, other parts of Asia too. Like, I don't want people to feel that way. Theoretically, if you made me analyze the reasons why they feel that way, I could break them down for you.
Yeah.
I get it. But somebody's got to just show some highlights, at least some middle ground things.
Trying to show that Chinese people can be nice people too.
Yeah. And I get it. Chinese people, when you meet them anecdotally in your everyday life, unless you meet like kind of like certain ones that are, I guess, less common, they're not going to necessarily be like the incredibly like smiley people. They could be, but I'm just saying. Yeah.
Basically, I'm not saying, basically to wrap up this point is that we're not saying that there's not reasons for those questions or those debates and those stereotypes. Stereotypes come from somewhere. But I do think, just as we do for Asians in general, we like to do, even especially for Chinese, is to just show the other side and show that we're more than those stereotypes. Number 8, we figured out early on that the world was tribal. And even though it's changing a bit now, it is still like that. Basically, this kind of understanding that people kind of like things that are similar to them, that's not a crazy thought. I think everybody should know that that's kind of true.
On a macro level,
I think
your micro to mid situation, like we always talking about, we're like boats or like fishes in the ocean, and you are in control of, to some extent, how big or small or powerful or how your GPS runs as a boat. But then there's also a tide and a gravitational pull from the currents and the moon, that you as a fish / vessel in the ocean have no control over. All you have is the control over how strong you are.
Yes. And that's what it means to be tribe. People are tied to a tribe.
Here's the thing. You don't get to fully pick what type of vessel you were born or what type of fish you were born.
Why is it that any Asian YouTuber that's out there, the majority of their fans are Asian? Why is that?
Because that's what,
Like literally, that's a fact for like 95% of Asian
right.
YouTubers.
Well, obviously, I would say the only YouTubers that kind of have the benefit of multiple heavy demographics are the white YouTubers.
yeah.
And that's why you see so many Asians or Latinos or even African Americans dye their hair blonde and wear blue contacts. Because at the end of the day, if you just look at it, let's remove all this sort of like social justice aspects out of it. If you want to appeal to the largest amount of demographic pools, having blonde hair and blue eyes is still probably the logical move.
Even if you're Asian or even if you're, even if you're not white.
Yeah,
it still helps
just affect those attributes.
To have white features.
Yeah. As far as the world being tribal, it's unfortunate. I think you look in 2019 right now and you see that on full display. I mean, you just take a look at polling numbers across America. It's inland versus coastal. It's this side versus that side. Like I can just know what someone's race, gender, and where they're born in America right now, and with like 75% accuracy, roughly predict which way they're leaning on a vote.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to say it's just about race and looks, though, because different tribes, it can be by socioeconomic and city. For example, in SF, I think it's a little bit less based on being Asian. I think it's more about being from
the tech world.
You know. Obviously, Andrew Yang's, all of his followers are not Asian. In fact, his biggest supporters are not Asian. So it's more about his meaning, what he's doing for people. People are able to overlook.
Right. Even in England, which for the longest time was a homogenous society, they really segregated themselves based on which type of British accent you had. Oh, do you speak the Queen's English? Do you speak Cockney?
Yeah.
Do you have a Birmingham ham accent or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Like humans like to separate people into quadrants and then rank them into a hierarchy.
I always said, like, anytime there's more than like 6 of a person, they're gonna start separating themselves somehow. You ever seen a group of like 10 friends and like they still have a ranking amongst that 10 friends? They have the girl, the guy who's usually in the middle of the group, and then, you know, there's the guy who generally is always caught on the outside of the picture, and it's just funny. Anyways,
it's like it's like a sorority or a frat. I mean, they have
there's hierarchy.
Yeah, but I just think that that's just the way the world is. Not that I want it to be that way, and not that it should be that way, but on a macro level. Now, I'm not saying in the mid and the micro things might not be different though, because it depends on your own individual situation, who's around you, what neighborhood you're living in, what part of that city,
what age you are. If you're really young, guess what? Tribes don't mean as much,
dude. Living in different parts of Vancouver could feel like you're living in 2 different countries.
Oh, yeah. Different parts of LA. Number 9 is that we generally care more about impact and meaning of a video more than income. So it's not that we don't value money. Of course, you know, everybody likes money. We like making money. We do brand deals. But it just doesn't take priority over kind of the type of videos that we want to make. For example, we've rarely ever hopped on trends. We never did like the mukbang thing. We never did like parodies, really, like maybe 1 or 2 parodies. We've never really gotten to the reaction game. These are things that you do when you're essentially trying to make money off YouTube. And I think making money off YouTube is like the number 2 thing for us. But number 1 is like, what do we want to say?
Well, you're referring to like the SEO games.
The SEO games. We don't play and that's nothing wrong.
The Google keywords.
We have tons of friends that play those games that they're just like, hey, it's like a formula. You to do this, tag it like this. You got to do whatever your fans want.
No, literally,
you to see.
you stack like 7 things on the formula together. You have a formula cake.
But guess what? Guess what, everybody? The FUNG Bros channel, I would say, lacks formula. Or the formula is just a lot different, I should say that.
There's not a lot of internet gaming. Like in terms of gaming, not gaming video games, like gaming the system.
No, we don't game the system. It's hard, man. You know, we just want to make the content. It's funny because after all this time, David, almost 8 years in the game of YouTube, we're still kind of like making the content that we just want to make. So in a way, as I feel like as impersonal as our channel can be called because we don't talk about ourselves, you can see that topic-wise, we just want to talk about the things that we want to talk about, whether it's an Asian issue video, one video, and then the next video is a food video, and the next one's a burger video, and the next one's about streetwear. It's like, it's very inconsistent, but it's interesting. That's how I say our channel is.
You know, obviously you look back and you could say, oh man, I wish I would have did it that way. Hey man, if we made it, you know, obviously there's a few vids I wish I could take back, or like, I don't really grade the journey of the last 8 years professionally making videos online, like a 10 out of 10, you know, hey man, who's to say the future couldn't be 10 out of 10 though?
Yeah.
Or at least striving for that.
Not every video, I want to say, we've tried our hardest to be meaningful in, but even if you watch the little grocery store videos, you know, we try to tie in a little deep takeaway at the end.
We never did the cinnamon challenge. We never did ice bucket challenge.
You know what it is?
By the way, we do donate a lot of stuff, whether that's like
clothes, equipment.
I got some microfinance accounts for, you know, third world entrepreneurs. We donate a ton of stuff to Goodwill.
Oh yeah.
We'll throw up stickers all around you know, New York, Alhambra,
I'm
wherever.
supporting Indiegogos and Kickstarters, man.
GoFundMe's when people have because everybody's going
yeah.
through it, you know, on some level or another, you know, relative to their own spectrum. But absolutely, I mean, you know, we were one thing, we were raised pretty deep in the church, and I'll tell you this, I'm not fully, you know, I don't even want to get into that too much. They coach you a lot on being caring.
Yes, they coach
you receive a lot of heavy coaching on caring for your immediate community, your family, your friends, and even rings that extend out from on the tree stump. You know, Pluto, you still got to, the sun still got to care about Pluto, even though Pluto is so many rings removed from the sun. Now, is that even fully effective? As I'll tell you this, one thing I've realized is after meeting a lot of really, you know, and there's different types of rich people, after meeting some really rich, successful people, not every really successful person, at least in this game that I've met, like entertainment, that's the sun, cares about Pluto.
You mean they don't care necessarily?
Pluto's just a ball of ice.
They don't necessarily care about the little people.
Not more than they have to.
No. I think a lot of people.
And there's just different coaching that everybody receives.
I mean, look at our channel. It's like partially like a community channel. Like, I don't want to say, we've just worked with so many different people, and we've tried to put so many people on and given them a shot to be on camera when a lot of other people don't even imagine that there's talent. Like, we're bringing our friends into videos that really have no aspirations of being a YouTuber, right?
Even our friends who are trying and it's not working out for them.
Yeah, just help, you know. And it's not, I don't want to say it's just out of like, obviously I think we're going to get good content out of it too. So obviously that still helps, you know. David, point number 10. So David, what's one last thing you want people to know about the FUNG Bros that might help them understand us better?
I think the easiest way to put it is that the past 8 years professionally doing YouTube, it's just been our search for the truth. It's not that we had it figured out 8 years ago, and it's not that we have it figured out now. There was just a lot more soul searching than we ever let on. And there was a lot more really in-depth discussions. And I think now in 2019, moving forward, until, let me tell you this.
Whoa.
I think, and you cannot predict the future.
You think. David thinks.
Until the day I stop doing this.
Whoa.
Whether that's when I die or at a prior date, it's going to change.
Basically, that wraps it up for our top 10 list of things that you need to know about the FUNG Bros to kind of understand why we make the videos that we do. 2019, season of change. A lot of things are moving, guys. Say no more, guys. We're going to wrap up the podcast here. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Hopefully it helped you guys understand us better. You might still have some other burning questions. Hopefully the comment section is popping. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching that episode of the Hot Pot Boys Hot Podcast. That was 10 things about what makes us who we are, the FUNG Bros. Yo, you guys, thank you so much for watching that podcast about us and what informs our perspectives. Hopefully you guys got a better idea of just where our minds come from.
And if you guys liked any part of that podcast, definitely check out our 50/50 show coming soon on this channel. Stay tuned.